Hello, everyone. This is Giulio Coraggio, location head at the law firm DLA Piper. This is the podcast Diritto al Digitale. I'm glad to have here as guest of today Marco Trucco, Chief Marketing Officer at Videoslots, but a very seasoned expert in the gambling industry. I'm not saying that Marco is old, but we've been working together for more than a decade, probably.
Yep.
And so he knows the ins and outs of the gambling industry across Europe, and we're going to have a chat on how he sees the market now and in coming years. Marco, welcome, and thank you for accepting my invite.
Thanks, Giulio.
Marco, first of all, I said that you are seasoned with no offense, but you have been seeing so many things in the gambling market. Can you give us a snippet of your background and how you became involved in this industry?
Sure. Well, I joined the gaming industry back in 2008, so it's like more than 15 years now. Back then, I was a journalist, and I was also working for an exhibition company. And by pure chance, I was attending an event in Vegas, and I happened to witness the final table of the World Series of Poker in 2003. And well, back then nobody knew what poker was about, what Texas Hold'em was about, and I didn't know either. I was playing with friends, but I didn't know poker at all. I mean, that version of poker. And then but I loved the game, and I saw that famous final table where Chris Moneymaker won, and that's the big bang of poker. That's when poker really started to become like a popular entertainment, especially in the US. And then just by a few coincidence, and I met Luca Pagano, who at that time was the most famous poker player in Italy. Invited me to help him in the organization of a few first events that he arranged and he organized in Italy on poker. And so after a couple of years, I decided to quit my old job and jump into the gaming industry. I started as a country manager for Everest Poker. Back then, it was a large poker room, and from there, I worked for a couple of other companies, and then I moved to PokerStars for many years. I started as an Italian country manager, and then I took over more countries. And when I left, I was in charge of the whole international marketing organization. Then I moved to GG Poker, where I established the European headquarters and operations here in Malta.
Mm-hmm.
And then last year, like 16, 17 months ago, I joined Videoslots. So finally out of poker and into the into the casino, the real battlefield.
Yeah, it is interesting because you saw all the history of the international gambling market, the transition from poker to casino. What would you consider the current status of the online gambling market? Let's focus on online. Um, so, is poker dead?
No, I mean, no. But that's just because for the last 2 years I worked at GG that managed to revitalize the vertical by a lot. Poker needed like a strong competitor, and GG was definitely up for the task. And actually, it took over PokerStars in market share in most markets. So poker is now, very. I mean, at least has a chance to survive long term. In the rest of the world. No, in Italy is going to die. unless, of course, international liquidity is not agreed. But that's a separate conversation. But I think in general, in the international market, poker is going to remain, niche product, but like 3-5% of each market. That's the potential of poker at this point. So I see no reason, to decline further. Let's say, yeah, and it's a good thing because it's a great game in that is usually one of the trump cards of the gaming industry when we want to say, hey, it's not just luck. Look at and look at poker. Yeah, so they come up with poker when it suits to claim that you can also play for entertainment, for fun, and poker normally comes up as the best option to play when you want just to have fun and use some skills. So it's good, I think, for the industry to have a game that is skill based, generally skill based.
Yeah. No, and while the main focus is on casino, I would say I don't know if you agree that we have seen now a phase of diversification. A few years ago, all the main operators had exactly the same games, which is maybe no longer the case now. What's your view?
On casino, I think that the market is set as is still very commoditized. It's so easy now to integrate new providers, new games. You have a few aggregators that you get 90% of the content. So it's not that you have to. In Italy, it's a bit different, but generally in other markets, it's relatively easy to integrate and offer a lot of games. So how to present these games and how to offer like a decent user experience when you have 10,000 games as we do, it's a different problem. But getting the games on site has become much more much easier. So that's leveled a bit one of the early differentiations between casino sites. You had a site with 5,000 games and another site with 500. Now every casino has more than enough games, and and there, you can move into exclusive games. You can do some bespoke stuff. You can have some early releases, so you get some games that no other site has for a few weeks. But generally speaking, is really like a supermarket, all the same product with a different front end and different promotions. So it takes more marketing, it takes more creativity just to resell what basically is the same thing in terms of the actual choice of games. But it's that's the beauty of this vertical. It's yeah.
No. I mean, so basically, it's all down on the services that you can provide to your players in order to make your platform more attractive. Also, there are platforms that are more performant and than others, and that makes a difference. Going to the Italian market, you know that at the end of this year, or probably in a month or so, we're going to have a tender for new licenses. You have such a big view of the international market, and you can compare different markets. How do you see the tender for new licenses? Is the market saturated? Do you see opportunities for new players? I know that sometimes you have a negative view of the Italian market. Don't be too negative.
No, it's a fantastic market. It's the second largest market in Europe and probably the world if you don't consider US as a single market, which is not. So it's a fantastic market. It has huge problems because it's not easily accessible, and it's generally is very protective, and so I mean, there are of course several pros and several cons. The big cons, of course, is the marketing ban that generally creates like a huge uh, moat and a huge barrier of access to newcomers. Then few other things that I see that are negative in the Italian market is the consolidation, because we're seeing, especially with the new acquisition and the merger between Sisal and SNAI, that few companies will have a high share of market share, and they're local champions and they have local advantages. So it's not like the UK where even the big ones, they play on a level field. The local champions in Italy, they have very deep-rooted advantages. The omni-channel, which I think is a very bad feature for the online gaming, pure online gaming operators, because of course adds complexity and adds and lowers the business you can do if you don't agree to also have a land-based business. And then yeah, I think also the access to, in general, access to market is bad. Access to credit is terrible. You cannot get a bank to work with you or to fund you to launch a business in Italy. So these are very very serious limitations. And of course, a global company looks at opportunities around the world. You have Brazil, you have other countries in LATAM that are opening up. You have potentially Mexico, you have potentially other countries with less, with a lower or with an easier way in. And so you always have to, choose. You have limited developers, you have limited financial resources, you have limited marketing budget. So Italy feels like, oh, we are so big that every operator will stay. But actually, I know that even big operators, even big European companies are considering to leave the Italian market just because it's not particularly strategic for them anymore, which is a pity. And of course, the new tender is a problem. I mean, again, the problem of the Italian market is that the incumbents have really so many advantages and tendency to, let's say, not welcome changes or innovation that favors them, so that they are very successful in keeping the things as they are. And but that can be said basically for every other industry in Italy. So in Italy, incumbents have always the referee on the favor.
No, I don't have such a negative take on the Italian market. I do believe that a mistake many brands do when approaching the Italian market is that they believe that they can use the Italian market as any other market where they operate without any sort of customization of their offering to the peculiarities of a market that is heavily regulated. As they customize their offering in the UK, that is seen as the biggest market, they should be doing the same in Italy. If otherwise, they're just reselling their offering in Italy without any sort of customization, without creating an alternative non-gambling related brand, which is the way most operators are handling the gambling advertising ban, without putting on the ground the so-called PVRs, the shops on the ground, top-up cards for the gambling accounts. Then it is competitive. It's difficult. It is true that at the same time, there is a need of diversification. And so if someone can introduce something innovative, then it might make the company make a difference. I still believe it can make a difference. The 7 million price for the new tender, it might be a barrier. At the same time, we would make a selection across different operators. So there might be some M&A operator opportunities among smaller operators that could create the minimum number of players so that operators cannot will not start from scratch. As to the future, not just in Italy, across internationally, across the different gambling pillars, how do you see the gambling market in the next, I don't know, 3 to 5 years? How is it gonna evolve in your view?
Well, I think that we have, again, two large markets that are taking all the attention at the moment, US and Brazil. So Europe at the moment is considered to be like the financing, the part of international growth. So you basically make money in Italy and try to protect your business as much as you can in Italy, so that with the return and investment and the revenues that you make in Italy, you can expand in other jurisdictions. So we are sort of banking the expansion of operators into other countries. So and that was the case for US, where companies invested a lot of money for acquisition there, and then so that's a bit of we usually on the other end, like companies that make money elsewhere invest in Italy. In online gambling is the opposite. Companies make money in Italy and invest outside of Italy to grow. So that's of course also because there are less opportunities to invest. So that was also a very convenient argument to reduce investment and growth. And in the next few years, I think that the key battle is like is always against unregulated operators. And I think, last a couple of days ago, the UKGC released a survey, not a survey, a research that showed that 1.5 million players in UK are playing on unregulated sites, and the size of the market at the moment in UK is online is like something like 2.7 billion in unregulated sites and 4 billion on legal sites, regulated sites, locally regulated sites. So it's like 65-35. And as soon as this, and of course the unregulated business is growing much faster. So as soon as this tips 50-50 and becomes, like that, more than 50% of the market is on the regulated operators, that I think that should ring like a loud warning that you don't control the market anymore. You can still pretend that you control the market when you have 65%. 2 out of 3 players, you can still think, okay, we control. But once it's like 1-to-1, it's like, okay, we're not really controlling it. And that's going to happen in a couple of years. And especially because the Apple, that used to be the biggest gatekeeper, because you could not have an app on the App Store unless you were regulated, are going to allow sideloading of the apps because of the EU new regulation. Crypto payments are going to help unregulated operators. So a combination of having the app on the store and using cryptos is going to massively simplify life for unregulated crypto operators. So I expect that eventually it's going to be 50-50, if not more, across more countries, and that how the regulators will react to that, I don't know. But definitely this is going to be the challenge, like that the channelization is going to be the key indicator of where the industry is going.
Now we will see how regulators are gonna tackle that.
Yeah.
On the US, we also read that many operators, European operators, are leaving the US market. So I don't know whether that is still a big opportunity. It's very costly. I don't know, even Brazil, taking the money out of the country might be a problem. Yeah, I mean, all the other markets still have lots of challenges. I could tell you that compliance costs in the US are massive.
Yes, of course.
And
But yeah,
so,
but I think, I mean, when you see the map, unregulated operators have a much easier life. You have Germany, you have France, you have plenty of big European markets that you can target that were, for different reasons, just left, for the taking of regulated operators. So, and even if you look in France, like, okay, FDJ, I mean, Kindred bought FDJ, but you're an expert on that, but the antitrust just decided that they need to keep both brands separate and they cannot mix the monopoly business with the the online gaming, which is an open market. In Italy, that didn't happen. We still have single owners of single concession that work with the same brand in the open market of online. So that's why I see that there is like the big advantage of incumbents. It's not, I mean, they did a great job in shaping in the market in the way that suits them, and then they did a very good job in that. I'm not complaining or anything. That's the job to achieve a market that suits the company they work for. But again, we'll see. I don't know if SNAI and Caesar will be allowed by the authority to merge completely or not. And again, there are several aspects on the Italian market that creates some sort of unnecessary high barrier. So like, and today is fine. Today is okay. But my problem is that in 9 years, you don't know what's going to be the market, the product, and then a tender that will basically freeze the market today or in December for 9 years. That's, you don't have the crystal ball. So the regulator doesn't have the crystal ball either. So basically you think that you're regulating, which is fair today, but you definitely have no ideas what's going to happen in 9 years time. 9 years ago, we could not forecast where we would be today. And so the courage of the regulator to say, okay, we're going to regulate today and block small companies because they are just too small to apply for a license. Yes, today, but you're very likely going to block a company that potentially would have grown to be a significant player in Italy in the next few years. So it's fine. I'm saying, like, big companies, they always have a way to, again, as I said, to shape the market in a way that suits them, and it's perfectly fine. It's just I don't see how Italy can lead the online gambling industry, because some of these limitations that were imposed on competition and on marketing, and so I think it will just remain a very lucrative market for few, but not a very dynamic one.
yeah, I do believe that there is some opening and more business-oriented approach. Some discussions on around the gambling advertising ban have been ongoing for a while, so there is hope that some flexibility will be given. Also, the big sponsorship deals that have been signed lately in relation to parallel brands show that the regulator is becoming more and more tolerant, because it understands the need for these companies to survive. So, I mean, the message of the government is not so against gambling as we could perceive under the previous government. And there is a sort of acknowledgement that gambling is part of the economy of the state. On the number of licenses, it is true that if operators are not gonna bid for a license now, there might not be an opportunity for many years ahead. I don't know if it's for 9 years, but yeah, let's see how it goes. Marco, thank you very much for your insights. It was a nice chat. I hope that your predictions are not going to happen, and that the Italian market will continue flourishing as it's happening over the last 10, 15 years. But I thank you so much for your thoughts and contribution to the discussion.
I hope the same. It's just I'm always prepared to the worst case, but I know at the end of the day, everything will be fine. That's why we're still